where's artificial intelligence going and learning? Because we were all taught to go to school, go to university, etc., and it's now happening so much faster.
Yeah, I think there's a massive revolution going on in education right now. I think education is going to be unrecognizable in 10 years from now. Mainly because the whole industrial education system is based on three things, which are basically memorization and calculation and literacy. It's just three things. And computers beat us on all three of those. Memorization, computer's going to beat you every time, right? Calculation, don't even bother competing against computer, and even literacy, a computer will be able to recite any single book anywhere on the planet and correct your spelling and grammar. So you can't even compete. So we're teaching our kids at the moment how to be better computers, and obviously that's not going to get them anywhere. The three biggest things that any entrepreneur, including I think pretty much everyone in this room, will be looking at is not how do I increase my memory, or they're not doing any of those things. They're doing three things that actually do the opposite. The first thing is self-awareness. They're just getting more self-aware of who am I, what's my strengths, what are my limitations, what kind of team do I need, all those different elements that the moment you have low self-awareness as an entrepreneur, you're dead, right? No matter how smart you are. And I learned that. I went to Cambridge University, and the number of people I had who thought they were smart enough to start a business, and all the businesses failed, right? Because they were basically, an academic needs to know what to do, so they read all the books, didn't mean anything, because you can get on a bike, read all the books, you're still going to fall off it, right? As opposed to an entrepreneur who needs to do in order to know. It's all through the learning through doing. So self-awareness comes through either hard knocks, because you try a bunch of stuff and then you realize that's not the way to do it, or it's actually having mentors and people you're working with. Second one is self-mastery, which is all about basically how you then improve yourself. And the third one is self-expression, which is how do you then express yourself. Entrepreneurship is one of the most ultimate examples of self-expression, and your business is just a mirror of yourself. So those three things we have to go out and learn, because we didn't learn that at school, and that's going to end up in our education systems eventually, and it's already starting in some groups. But what we do within our AI is we start with the fact that our brains fundamentally have two different types of recall. The first recall is limited to the first three, which is recall of the past, and that's called our memory. The second recall, which is the one that all entrepreneurs focus at, is recall of the future, which is called your vision, right? So those people with the strongest vision are the ones that are strongest about they can recall the future. It's that's what it looks like. You listen to Elon Musk, Richard Branson, they never talk about the past. They're always talking about here's what's going to happen in the world, and that's where they're going. And our ability to strengthen our vision of where we're going is what is the number one key thing we need as an entrepreneur. Because fundamentally, capital is nothing more than your future cash flow. Capital is just, if I have a product and I don't have a name to it, which means it's not capitalized yet, it doesn't have a capital at the beginning of it, there's no brand to it, it's not worth anything. The moment I put a capital on the front of it and I call it SpaceX or I call it Tesla, right, then suddenly I can actually say the future value of this, I can now capitalize, and people are willing to buy in to take a share of this future as well. And most of us don't have that. Most of us are in jobs or even in our business, and we haven't capitalized in a way that we can start actually sharing some of that capital. The moment we actually think in social capital terms, every one of us can do that with our own future, and every one of us can then actually say, hey, who wants a piece of this? Give me some money for a piece of it, I'll give you a piece of it, and then that gives me the resources to now grow what I'm doing, which fundamentally means the bigger your vision of the future, the bigger your pot of capital you can now share. And that's exactly why you've got the founders of Ripple or Ethereum, they basically have said, here's the vision of where we're going, and people are saying, well, we want a piece of that because we believe in that vision as well. And people that don't understand the vision say, well, how could that be worth anything, right? So I think we're shifting our entire thinking about AI, because the way we look at AI is most AI is backward facing. If you go to Amazon, it's telling you what's the next book you want to read based on what books you've read or what books your friends have read. Whereas if you're an entrepreneur and you're at startup phase and you've got things you don't know, you haven't read those books. Amazon's not going to tell you what books to read to take you to the next step in your business. So we use future AI, which basically means we give people assessments to find out where do you want to go, what steps you want to take, what kind of business you want to have, and we say, based on where you want to go, here's the right thing for you to do, as opposed to what you were doing yesterday. And that's why most of us are moving away from social media the way we were using it before, because we're saying it's not giving us what we want, because we're all progressing and raising our own consciousness, and it's giving us what we were looking at yesterday, as opposed to what we really want to be looking at for tomorrow.
Well, that's fascinating. Well, that sort of leads into the question I wanted to ask you in terms of, with this technology change, how do you see investing changing? Whether it's investing in companies or investing in real estate or stock market, etc. How do you see investing changing in the next 5 to 10 years?
To traditional thinking is that information asymmetry is necessary in order to be able to build value. And we are proving that not to be true, because the number of questions that we need to answer through the constant experimentation that startups deliver is vastly outstripping the relatively limited number of opportunities that the traditional gatekeepers allow to be filtering through. So that is why there are so many different initiatives that resemble each other in various geographies. They should be carried out simultaneously. That is why the regulators are so embarrassed in their profound ignorance that they cannot admit, because they are the maximum top authority in their field, appointed to know the answers to something that hasn't been understood yet. And they are putting in place regulation that cannot be but broken at birth and completely mistaken. So investing is going through an incredibly powerful phase of democratization, where anybody can go and do activities that traditionally would be reserved to a very, very tiny sliver of the population. And of course, the regulators will say very happily that if you are poor, you are stupid, and you shouldn't be allowed to invest. That is what is going on with the various filters that are saying, no, if you are not an accredited investor in the US or a sophisticated investor in the UK, then you are not allowed to invest. And I think that is wrong, because there are so many other circumstances that originally define the amount of wealth or income that the person has. So in order to keep them in that situation, rather than allowing them to learn through their own activities, is extremely anti-democratic.